Hello there, Richie here again, welcome back. And in this video I decided I was going to talk to you a little bit about my favourite region, the best region in the whole of Germany. No, I'm not biased at all, not biased at all. The Ruhr Valley, the Ruhr area, the Ruhrgebiet, the... What the Okay, tip of the day. Jesus Christ. So there's good news, the smoke alarms in the house work. Tip of the day then, don't leave the hob on your oven with plastic stuff on the top. It will melt and it will cause smoke and it will cause the smoke alarms to go off. Anyway, I was here, yes, I was going to talk to you about the Ruhrgebiet, and I will. But today, at the moment, I don't know if you can see that, I'm here, this is my terribly cluttered workstation stroke studio. I'm working on a video here for you. Been doing the Q&A for the Patreon account. If you want to see that, that will be up now. By the time you're watching this YouTube video, that will be up. I've got questions from Mrs. So Hard to Please. Can you say drei without an accent? Dan, if I'm going to go back to watching football games. Der Spanier. Why you don't speak German? Ilse Cooper. Asked this one from Yorkshire. Lots of things. Check that out if you're interested. In another video I talked to you about the lockdown measures being relaxed a little here in Germany and being able to go back to the hairdressers, to go to the barber today, and that day has finally come around. This terrible mop on my head. I've decided finally I'm going to go, and I don't know, so I'm going to take you out and about. I'm going to take you along with me, do a bit of an outside vlog, talk to you about, show you the town of Dortmund, and talk about, I thought it'd be a good opportunity to talk about the Ruhrgebiet, this region. Nice sirens going by, great, always good for a video. And so I will take you for a walk with me and talk to you along the way about the Ruhrgebiet. Now I'm not sure, I've had this appointment at the hairdressers for ages, and I'm not even sure whether he's opened back. I know they're allowed to open back again. I really should have called ahead, I should have phoned and found out, but it's an excuse to go for a walk if I get there and my appointment's cancelled, if the shop's closed, then hard luck, but I could really do with this haircut now. Look at all this horrible old man grey hair. Ready to go. Alright then people, I am on my way. It's quite a walk. I'm going to be at least walking for about half an hour or so. I'd normally get the U-Bahn, the metro, the underground train or whatever, but with the obviously with the current crisis, I'm avoiding public transport as much as I can, and it's not too far, a few kilometres just to the other side of town. I thought I'd enjoy the walk and show you a bit of Dortmund. And obviously this is going to be one of those videos, it's going to be pretty biased, right? This is akin to somebody who's only ever lived in one place, been born and brought up in the same place, and says my region is the best region. It's pretty much how I feel about this place. I identify strongly with the Ruhrgebiet in this region. It's the place I've lived in probably longest, so this is my home for all intents and purposes. I'm used to it here, I like it here. I'm hoping I can make this video a little bit more structured than I usually do when I go out and about doing vlogging from the street. I tend to get a bit off track and ramble a little, so I've made myself a list to see if I can stick to some structures. And I think first point you'll appreciate is that what I love about the Ruhr Valley area, the Ruhrgebiet, is of course its beautiful old architecture and typical Altstadt areas. What do you reckon? No? Not convinced? No, neither am I. It is of course not an area renowned for its old architecture. It is an industrial centre. It certainly was an industrial centre running up to and during the Second World War, the centre for coal mining and steel production, so therefore the centre for weapons production, and therefore it was a target of the Allies for bombings, and a lot of the area was completely flattened and was built rather quickly and randomly after the war, so it's not really the place to come if you're looking for oldie worldy German old towns, Altstädte. So what do I love about this area then? Well, first on my list I've just written down in German, das kulturelle Angebot. Don't really know how to translate that, to be honest. The cultural opportunities, leisure and culture opportunities in the area. And this reminds me of a conversation I had. Briefly met some businessman from down in Schwabenland, Swabian, I believe we call him in English, Schwabe, and was in Bochum, and he was very, very disparaging about Bochum and the surrounding area, saying it was all very ugly and uninteresting area to live. How could I possibly bear to live there? And the first thing I said to him was, well, I can't imagine living where you are. He was from some small town, some village, just probably ended with Ingen, some little pokey village out in the middle of nowhere. To which he then replied that they got some really important museum nearby, and there was only half an hour from the opera or whatever. And I think he made the mistake that a lot of people make by for confusing culture with high culture. For him, culture was upper class, as high art museums and opera. And I said, no. I'm talking about everyday stuff, like just how many cinemas we've got here in Dortmund. I can go to a multiplex type cinema with a mainstream program, and there's regularly stuff in various languages, particularly original Hollywood movies in the original English. And apart from that, I can always go and visit a smaller cinema with a more international range of films, lesser known films, stuff that's supported with grants by the local authorities, showing things in all the different kinds of languages and in the original language as well. Also, less highly cultural stuff, just the amount of football teams we've got here in the region. If I want to go and watch a football game, or if you're into music, we've got a lively club scene, just small clubs where you can see live music, alternative music scene. And I cast my mind back to that conversation, and he was pretty much speechless. He said, no, we can't really compete with that. No, out in his village. I'm sure it was very pretty where he lived. Lots of nice old buildings and all very quiet and a lot of rich people, but not for me. We're getting closer to the centre of Dortmund then. And the next thing I've got on my list is the dialect. Now, this is obviously a very subjective thing, and this is why I said this is like talking to someone who was born here, lived here for all their life. It's very biased. It's just what I'm used to. This is where I learnt most of my German. This is what I'm used to. I love the way people speak here. I have adopted the local dialect to a large extent. I would say the dialect is unique, as the region is unique. It's kind of a mix of old Westphalian with a lot of Polish influence, some Yiddish influence, and also a lot of very particular specific terms from the old mining industry, mining language. I won't go into too much detail about the dialect here because I've done a couple of videos on the subject already. Check them out on the channel. I'll show a link here. You can go and check them out, but the way people speak here is just part of the charm for me. It's my German. It's the way I speak German. I don't know if I was talking about this in another video or whether it was in my Q&A on the Patreon thing. I think it was a Patreon thing. This is weird for me. I'm really glad that people are able to open their businesses again, but this whole thing with the keeping a distance and things cordoned off, it's going to be a while before I go back to cafes and restaurants, because for me that's a bit of luxury that I want to pay for, and it's really not a very relaxed environment with all the rules and entering your name into a log and stuff. It's going to be a while before I get back out and go and eat out at restaurants and cafes, etc. Now, the next thing I had on my list, probably a controversial point, is the concept of RUHRSTAT. For me, it's a concept that exists already, but it's also a concept that probably needs to be furthered, needs to be adopted, needs to be promoted further. And what I mean by that is that this concept of the whole region, although it's many different cities, individual cities, Dortmund, Bochum, Essen, Duisburg, etc. There's a feeling of one coherent region, and that certainly works on the level of public transport, because I've mentioned it in another video. This is one public transport authority. Your local ticket will take you all over the place on a really, really good network of trains, trams, buses, etc. And you can get really a long way through the night, all hours of the day. So on the one hand, I think the concept is already working, and I certainly, my perception of the region is as one region. For example, I consider myself still a Bochumer. Bochum was the first town that I lived in here in Germany. You know, I did of course move to Dortmund later, and I've been living here for probably longer than I lived in Bochum now. Still very much a Bochumer, but I don't really distinguish much. I'm only 10 minutes away on the train. I've got a monthly ticket. I can nip down on a train and I'm back home, so to speak. But for me, it's just all one region. I find it difficult to imagine living outside of the Ruhr area. But Bochum, Dortmund, as long as I'm pretty much near a city centre and well connected with the next cities, I feel this is one big RUHRSTAT. As I say, this is one thing that on a political level could be explored further. Let me know your thoughts down below if you're from this region. I think maybe we'll benefit with less administration, less individual town halls, maybe not one Rathaus in each town, maybe a bit more of a central administration. Who knows? I certainly think it works. In my perception, this is RUHRSTAT, this is the Ruhrgebiet, and that could be expanded upon. I've got a fourth point here, which I think is very important. The Ruhrgebiet. Having said that, I feel very much at home here. I imagine I would have felt just as much at home in one of the bigger cities had I moved by chance to Hamburg or Frankfurt or maybe even Stuttgart. Munich and Stuttgart are a bit of a different world, but certainly some of the northern cities, probably certainly Berlin, Bremen. And one thing, of course, that such a big industrial, busy, heavily populated area like this has in common with bigger cities is, of course, it's very multicultural. Certainly ever since the 50s and 60s, when Gastarbeiter were invited to come over and work, the influx of Italians and Spanish, thank God the Spanish came over because I wouldn't have met my wife otherwise. This area in particular, where the industry was, where all the jobs were, has had a very mixed society, and I find that comforting. I am very much a fan of German culture and certain very German traditions, and I find the language and everything very fascinating, but I think I'm still a foreigner, and as a foreigner it's nice to not be the odd one out, and in my particular case, obviously, my fascination with other cultures has allowed me to move to another country completely. So it's just part of my character to be open to other cultures, and it's nice not just to be confronted with one very monotone culture. So I feel at home here. I'm not the odd one out, and there's always some contact with other cultures and languages, which I find very interesting here. I'm actually a little bit early, so I'm going to take a quick break here and sit down. German towns, even in the Ruhrgebiet, you're never very far away from something green. This is slap bang in the middle of the city. This is Stadtgarten. Couldn't get more central, but you're never really far away from from a green space, like a Grünanlage, the Germans would say. Green spaces in the town. So I'm gonna look for a little place to sit somewhere around here, and I'll keep nattering on to you. Yeah, and I have one final point for you, and I think this is quite important because this has helped me feel at home here. This is very much a region that reminds me of where I'm from in England. I'm originally from South Yorkshire, from the region near to Sheffield, and Sheffield is indeed the twin town of Bochum. There are other towns around this area in Yorkshire that also twinned with towns in this area. Castrop-Rauxel is twinned with Wakefield, Dortmund is twinned with Leeds. These are all Yorkshire towns, and there's a good reason for that. Yorkshire, certainly the area where I was from, is also the old steel, the centre of the steel industry and the mining industry, coal mining industry. Obviously the coal mining industry in the UK died out a lot quicker than it did here, but we have a very similar industrial tradition. Sheffield is also a large university town. We have lots of newer universities here: Dortmund, Bochum, Duisburg. I think Duisburg and Essen combined. Correct me if I'm wrong. So we have a very similar demographic mix: students, young people, exciting scenes for going out, lots of things for lots of influence from the students, lots of a very good kulturelles Angebot, as I've already talked about, and also mixed culture, lots of people from other countries, immigrants here. Also, I think something in the psyche of the people here, there's a lot of this kind of mentality. People in Yorkshire are very much associated with, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek, but there's some truth into it, with this, I like what I say and I like the typical Yorkshire attitude is supposedly, I do what I like and I like what I bloody well say. And there's very much some of this attitude here. I find people here, in comparison to all the parts of Germany, very direct and open, but that also translates into friendliness and openness in general. Generally speaking, there's not a false people. You won't get people paying you false compliments. If you do something wrong, people will tell you. But if people like you, you will also know that too. And if you make friends here, you make good friends for life. Well, I hope that was coherent as a video and it was structured well enough. I hope my points came across more or less, and you found it interesting. Obviously, Germany is a country that interests me in general, and I have vowed to myself, when the corona problem is over, that I will travel more within Germany. One thing I regret is not having travelled more throughout the UK whilst I still live there. So there's a lot of places in Germany that I need to say. Let me know down below in the comments where you are from, what regions I should really definitely need to visit when we're allowed to travel again. What is your favourite region in Germany? Where are the best places to live? I'm pretty sure I'm going to be staying here. This is where I feel at home, but I'd love to hear from you too. And if you enjoyed the video, please do like and subscribe. Also, if you want to support the channel further, you can support me on Patreon. Sign up on Patreon for the monthly Q&A. But otherwise, I will see you in the next video here on YouTube. Mach's gut, Leute. Now, there is the one small matter of whether I get my hair cut or not. I've been talking to you all this time. I've kind of forgotten what the actual purpose was that I was actually out where I was going to. And I'm getting close now to my hairdressers. So the place definitely gets a recommendation from me. I'm not sure if he is open, but I'm presuming so. Presuming my appointment still stands. RUHRSTADT in Dortmund. This is not paid advertising, by the way. It's just my personal recommendation. La Barberia. And it's looking quite good. The barber's pole is turning. This is the place. Definitely open. There's Torben. Looking good, people. Mission accomplished. I don't need that anymore. How do I look? As my grandmother used to say, more room in the house now.